We are honoured today to be joined by Ambassador Delcorde, where we will be discussing the term Europe as a global power. In today's interview, we will focus on what the term means, what has developed from it, and how the notion may have changed in the EU given the current crisis in Ukraine. First of all, I'd like to start off by saying thank you for agreeing to this exchange. So with our first question, the term Europe as a global power surrounds itself with discussions in what it entails, with its achievements being seen more in the economic sphere rather than areas such as security and defense. In your opinion, what does it entail on an economic, military, and foreign policy level?
I'm delighted to be with you today, and I will try to answer your first question. Strategic autonomy is the key word these days. The EU has realized that it was too much kind of counting on the others, the global powers, the global market, and not relying enough on itself. Doesn't mean, of course, that we are thinking at autarky, that we are thinking that all of a sudden we should kind of forget about globalization, of course not. But when it comes in particular to defense, it is important really to kind of be more than rhetorical and really be able to develop the so-called EU pillar within the NATO. What does that mean? It is, of course, a question of having finally some kind of military headquarters within the EU, being able to project our forces wherever the EU security is at stake, to be a reliable partner of those countries, non-EU countries, which are member of the NATO. And I want to add to this that these days, because of the war in Ukraine, neutral countries like Sweden or Finland are reconsidering really their neutral status. And this is, I think, very significant because today the security of our union is at stake, and we have indeed to demonstrate that we have the capabilities to be autonomous.
Mr. Ambassador, you have previously stated that the perception on EU defense varies amongst EU partners. Given the current crisis in Ukraine, in what ways are those perceptions changing?
As I alluded to a few seconds earlier, countries which were adamantly defending their neutral status are changing. The latest news is about Denmark, which has an opt-out when it comes to the EU foreign and defense policy, and they are now announced that they will reconsider that as well and might join the EU security and defense policy soon. Now, it's just not a question of being in or out. It is more than that. To quote the High Representative Borrell, the strategic environment of the EU is getting smaller. There is a growing need to reinforce the cohesion of the EU. The word which has been time and again mentioned, starting with the president of the Commission, is geopolitical. And there are many interpretations of this word. But one thing is clear, is that today, because of what happened in Ukraine, defense policy is no longer a taboo. I myself really I'm full of admiration of the recent decision of the of Germany when it comes to the increase of its defense budget. And there are many other examples. So yes, the perception is there. The willingness now is there too. You have to have a willingness in order to change a policy.
We are seeing new directions in the EU with terms such as strategic autonomy and the expected strategic compass this month. With this in mind, what constitutes a strategic culture in Europe, both in the economic and military level?
The European defense equation is about three elements: political will, capacity to decide, and the capacity to have an autonomous action. The strategic compass, which will be adopted normally at the EU Council on the 24th and 25th of March, is another word for a white book on the EU defense policy. And it has four elements, which I like to mention here, maybe as a reminder. But they are important, four of them. The first one is managing crisis, being able to deploy forces. People may remember that we have had for years what we call a battle group. And the battle group, unfortunately, just exists on paper. We have never been able to deploy those 1,500 troops. Now we are speaking of 5,000 men, which will be deployed in a very short time in a situation of crisis in order to secure an airport, evacuate the population, and all that. I'm not speaking of an EU army, but it's more modest, if you like, but it is already something. Secondly, hybrid warfare. The second element of the strategic compass is resilience. The war is not just about gun pointing at you. It has taken different shapes. We have to adjust to this type of threat. The third element is what the army people would call capabilities: tank, aircrafts, all sorts of armored vehicles. We have so many of those, but produced in so many different ways in different countries. Isn't it time to kind of harmonize our military equipment industry? And finally, partnership. The strategic compass is about cooperating with the NATO. I don't see actually any other way. 21 countries out of the 27 member states of the EU are NATO countries. So here are the four elements which hopefully will be endorsed soon at the EU Council.
Regarding the recent Russian aggression in Ukraine, neighboring areas of the EU, such as the Western Balkans and Turkey, continue to express to some extent pro-Russian sentiment. In face of these diverging views and challenges, in what ways may the EU's future prospects change regarding its partners?
Well, I would say that this. It is important, that's my own modest opinion, that we keep a channel of communication with Russia. This is the case with Serbia, whose airplanes are probably the only one these days flying to Russia, for instance. This is the case with Turkey, which has offered its good offices as a mediator, if you like, between Ukraine and Russia. Those countries are, I would not judge them, of course. I would say that their interests are various. Serbia cannot forget the support it got from Russia during the war with Kosovo, in addition to the fact that religion might play also a role to some extent, the Orthodox religion. Turkey has known how delicate it was to deal with Russia when it came to the situation in Syria, and has probably kind of privileged channels of communication with Russia, being also a NATO country. So for all those reasons, I think that this would not affect the EU perspective really, at this stage, at least for Serbia. Because if you like, the problem when it comes to Serbia, which is a candidate country, is not about its relation with Russia, but it's about the internal situation within the Western Balkans. A recent EU Council gave a perspective to the Western Balkan for year 2030, if I'm not mistaken. Well, let's see that within that time frame, let's see if Serbia and other countries can indeed join the EU. That would be really a nice result.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. It was a pleasure to exchange with you today, and it would delight to hear your expertise. And we thank you once again for your time.
Thank you very much.